the demons squeal in sheer delight. It's you they spy, so plump, so right. For though the groove is hard to beat, yet still you stand with frozen feet. You try to run, you try to scream, but no more sun you'll ever see. For evil reaches from the crypt to crush you in its icy grip.
Demons of Bears Past is what we're here to address tonight. Fear. Why are Bears fans so afraid to be optimistic? Why is it? Is it because of things that happened in the past, things that are happening currently? I don't know, but every time I turn around, people are afraid to be brave and root for their team and call them contenders. We don't know what the Bears will be this season. They don't even have a 53-man set, but I don't see any reason why we wouldn't be in contention for anything this year. I don't see a team that much better than us. We're young, but I don't see any reason not to hope. But that's the reason why we're having this show tonight. It's because I sense a lot of fear, and I think it's because of seasons past. And I think those demons and that trauma from seasons where we've been let down as fans, I think it haunts everybody. And so people are scared to be optimistic. And I had a long soliloquy laid out for you guys, but I decided to go off the top of the head. I think, and it's disturbing to me, because as a fan, I know how to flush one season down and forget about it, especially when you have a new regime. When you have a new regime, new coaching staff, new GM, you got everything new. How do you compare that to what's happening currently? And so that's part of the reason why we wanted to have this show tonight, was to get you guys, engage with you guys to see what it is that bothers you. Why are you afraid to be optimistic about this team? Is there particular positions on the roster that worry you? We want to know all of that. Is there a coach? Is there anything? Whatever it is, please get ready and fire your questions or your statements about any of that and give them to us. We'll read it out and we'll respond to them right here on the show. But this is an important topic to me because I'm a glass half full guy. You guys know that. And it kind of bothers me when I look amongst my Bears brethren and I see such a negativity towards the team, the coaching staff. It's like people don't want to give these people a chance to do their jobs. Like I seen someone I think it was yesterday, say that Alan Williams will be on the hot seat this season if he doesn't get the team in top 10 on defense. And I'm like, How do you come to that conclusion? Do you want to be pessimistic about everything? Because I don't understand that. Alan Williams just came to a team that had a completely gutted roster, and he helped those guys be competitive some way, somehow. And all of a sudden, one season later, after a few draft picks, he's on the hot seat if they don't get to a top 10 defense. I don't understand that way of thinking. And so before I get carried away, let me introduce my co-host, man. Sam Rush, how you doing, man? How you feel about this whole subject matter?
Feeling good. Feeling good. Shout out to everyone in the chat. I'm feeling you, dog. I'm feeling everything you're saying right now. It's just too much pessimism going on about this team, man. I think, and you're right, it's because of the past. The past still hunts us. And what I've always been saying this entire year is we know what bad looks like. And we've seen what bad looks like. We know what the wrong thing to do is. This is different. Everything Ryan Poles has done has been different than what we've are accustomed to. You know, he stripped the team down, and in 1 year he's rebuilt this roster. So I feel that Ryan Poles is the guy for the job. I believe in Poles. I believe in Flus because we had a competitive team. We were a 3-win team, but we were competitive all year long. We balled out against every team. Bad teams lay down. We didn't lay down to anyone. We fought the best teams in the NFL. We fought the Philadelphia Eagles. We fought the Dolphins, Miami Dolphins, to the end. And I expect more of the same with better talent this year. And you should too.
Amen to that. Trips, you got anything to say to that?
Powers opposed compels you. The powers opposed compels you. The powers opposed compels you. The powers opposed compels you.
We get it.
Powers opposed compels you.
We get it. Dan Aguirre, my brethren from the barroom community, former co-host, was gracious enough to grace us with a few minutes of his time to give his 2 cents into why he may or may not feel a certain way about the Bears. Dan, thank you for coming on. I really do appreciate you giving us a little bit of your time.
Hey, it's my pleasure. I wish I could give you more time, and I don't even know where to start. I feel like I could go for give you a soliloquy here on things to worry about for the next 30 minutes if you wanted. But I'll just jump in. Since we're talking the past, I'm wearing a Jim McMahon jersey. Somewhere around 88, they started saying, oh, we're going to trade him. I'm like, no. Again, I was a kid, but still, I'm like, you can't trade him. You just won the Super Bowl. He got traded. And then I was all in on Rex Grossman. Man, he's 21-14 as a starter, and everyone says he sucks. He led us to the Super Bowl. And, of course, by next season, he's benched in week 3. Then the Jay Cutler trade. God, I'm telling you right now, if I had to blow a guy at the top, this is PG. I'm sorry. Yeah. If I had to hug a gentleman and get too close to a guy, it would have been Cutler. That's how much I believed in Jay. And I got the jerseys. A half hour within the trade news, I had a Jay Cutler jersey ordered. He took us to the title game. I knew we were going to go to the Super Bowl. And then everyone's saying, oh, no, actually, he's no good. He's a coward. He didn't even want to go into the second. All this narrative and then before you know it, he's only won 1 playoff game and he's gone. Then Mitchell Trubisky. All right, it's not the guy I would draft. He's a second pick in the draft. But, hey, he just beat Green Bay to win the division championship at Soldier Field. We're going to the playoffs. I'm told we're going to the Super. Oh, my God, Cody Parkey. And then within 2 years, Trubisky's gone. So now I'm on this Justin Fields guy's bandwagon, and I'm told, oh, well, he's only won 5 games, and all he can do is run. And, of course, I don't believe that. I don't want it to be true. But as I told you, I was this passionate advocate for McMahon and Jay Cutler and Rex Grossman and Trubisky, and I am Fields now. But when I hear people like Chris Sims, it does make me angry. But I'm tired of fighting the narrative. Okay, if I feel like almost if I'm not passionate about Fields, maybe he'll be better. I want him to be great. I believe he can be great, but I want him to win here. I don't want him to be another one of these quarterbacks that gets traded.
I get it. Sometimes, you know what? There was times when when we were doing the show on the bar room together, I almost felt bad because it was like I didn't understand until a little while into doing a few shows with you how deeply steep you were into the Bears culture and history. And as I started to understand it, I started to feel bad. I was like, man, this like I haven't been to games or anything like that. I don't buy a whole bunch of Bears merchandise and jerseys and stuff like that.
I'm a fool. I buy everything.
It's so you know, when people get that steeped into it, it becomes a emotional thing. It even becomes financial with some people. You know, some people get really upset when we lose a player because they got the jersey or bought a bunch of gear or what have you. And you know, I started understanding things from a different way of looking at stuff. And you know, I started empathizing with what how you were feeling about it. But at the same time, I was always of the mind of, and I didn't think I had to tell you, but it felt like I needed to sometimes remind you that, hey man, don't judge them based on what happened yesterday with this group of guys that were running the organization. Let's give these guys a chance and let's see what they do. And so far, you know, just from my perspective, I'm not hating anything that they've done so far. As a football guy, and I look at this stuff, man, it's home runs all over the place. And that's why I'm so optimistic about right now, is because as a football guy, looking at these guys, looking at this roster, and it's not a 53-man crew yet. So I'm saying this with a caveat. What they have on paper right now is a team that can compete. I say that with my chest poking out. They have a team that can compete. They have a defense that can really, really move around and fly around and get to the ball. The middle of the field looks good. That front four, the rotation pieces they have, I think it looks good. The only questions I might have is maybe the depth of the offensive line. I think maybe safety might be a position of depth and need. And I can't really get mad at anything else. I mean, but those are things that they can fix before camp starts and after camp starts. So when you hear me say, yeah, I think they're going to have a winning season, I mean it. I absolutely mean it. I don't see any reason why they can't. So, I mean, I just appreciate everybody's point of view on the thing and try not to get so much into my feelings about the thing and just open this thing up as a community and talk to everybody in the chat, everybody on the show, talk to everybody, just talk to it and talk through it as a community so we can be better fans, you know, to the franchise. We can be better as a fan base if we learn to understand certain things and be more optimistic. That always helps, you know. So let me quit running my mouth so much. Samo, you got anything to that?
You hit the nail on the head right there, big dog. I just think that, you know, we have a lot to be happy about this year. Last year, I can understand some of the pessimism last year. We didn't have anything. We didn't even have draft. We barely had good draft picks. We had players that were on 1-year contracts that we didn't really know, who hadn't had success on other teams who are coming aboard. But this year is different. We have a lot of good players that we picked up via the draft. We have a good trade candidate. We have a number 1 wide receiver in DJ Moore, who came over via trade. We have some good free agents. We have the second best linebacking core in the league, according to what's that, PFF? What was that, PFF that graded us the second best? We have a lot to be happy about, guys. Yes, I know we're missing depth at pass rusher or at edge at defensive end. But I'm going to tell you something I read this week. Eberflus has never had a pass rush better than 18th in the league. And he's always been high in total defense. He's had multiple top 10 defenses, and every year he's coached, never had a pass rush higher than 18. Never had a pass rusher, a dominant pass rusher on his team. But you know what? He gets the job done. So I believe in Flukes for that reason. For those statistics, he's proven. And I'm going to believe in that until I see otherwise.
That's a good point. There's a guy that he's always in chats. I don't know if I've seen him in here, but he keeps making this point in different chats that I go to, and he's making the same point you are, Sam. It's this kind of defense, that the style of defense that he runs. It's like a collective for in as far as the pass rush goes. It's like you might hear Flu say we need to make them turn the front into a cone. So the offensive front, you want to turn it into a cone. You want to bend it and turn it into a cone and shrink it. And if you watch them on tape, you'll see it all the time. It's all about the push up front, giving the edges time to, kind of cave it down and close it off. So you're closing off the lanes to run, you're closing off the lanes to escape. And so that's the idea. It's not about having this dominant pass rush specialist to get around the edge and make all the sacks. No, it's a collective effort. And so to what Sam is saying, there's a lot of truth to that. Yes, on paper, it looks really slim at defensive end. Number one, we haven't seen any of these guys, on the field yet. You got a guy like Terrell Lewis that's not accustomed to a 4-3, and he's reinventing himself. He's got to get used to playing with his hand in the dirt. Do I think he can do it? Hell yeah. I think he won't have a problem at all with doing that. And other guys they have over there, DeMarcus Walker. So, I mean, as far as worrying about whether or not we're going to have a pass rush going into the season, I'm not that concerned about it, because they have to put the pads on and they got to get click clacking so we can actually see what we have going on. And if they don't, it wouldn't surprise me if they didn't make a move until after camp. But if they did it before camp, I would understand that too. But after camp seems to make the most sense to me. And so, Dan Aguirre, am I saying too much, or do you feel any of that? How you feel about the roster and any of the holes in it?
The one I worry about the most, not to change the subject, but the offensive line is the one that makes me just creates anxiety for me, because like I recall the game in Atlanta when Fields is getting rubbed down on the sidelines because he's taking a beating, man. I mean, he's literally the only person on offense that was balling at that time, and it's just getting hit every play. And people were talking about, well, he's running too much, but he's like running for his life. The line was just so bad. I mean, it's been bad since like Colorado. It's been bad for 20 years. And so I was so happy they drafted an offensive lineman. And I said this statistic before, that the gentleman that was drafted 10th was the first time the Bears had drafted a offensive lineman in the top 10 since 1983.
Wow.
You go back 40 years since they drafted a lineman in the top 10 in the first round. I mean, and that's part of the problem. When they had a great offensive line, they won the Super Bowl. They had a really good offensive line. They went to the Super Bowl in 06. And then, but every time after that, they just have been like, we'll try this guy at guard, move this guy to tackle. We hope he fits in here. And it's like they're always just trying to mitigate and hide holes in the offensive line instead of actually producing players through the draft or trade or free agency, what have you. So, like, to me, when you hear Cody Whitehair's back at center, I'm like, oh, God. And someone's immediately always says, well, he was a Pro Bowl alternate in 2018. I don't care. I saw enough bad snaps from Cody. And then, Tevin Jenkins is doing the job like at right guard, but now they're moving him to left guard. How will he be at left guard? I'm not necessarily sold on Braxton Jones, but he did play every snap last year, so I should give him some love. We signed a guy at right guard. Is he going to mesh? And right tackle, the rookie. I wish they would have drafted at least a couple more pieces for the offensive line. I feel like you've got to protect number one, and that should be a pun. That is your number one, to make sure Justin's okay, in my opinion. And I'm worried that they haven't solidified that line.
Okay, so if I got that right, you have Cody Whitehair is a question mark for you, and
massive.
Okay. And you don't like the idea of Tevin being moved from one side to the next. You thought they should have left him alone, right? Well,
Tevin kind of reminds me of Kyle Long in so many ways. Like the guy, like his attitude, and he's ferocious. And it's the same thing with Kyle. It's like, okay, he's going to be right guard. Well, he's going to be right tackle. He's going to be left tackle. No, he's back to right guard. And for some, to be fair, again, that sort of happened to Whitehair too. It's like he's center, he's left guard, he's center, he's right guard. I mean, I'm a firm believer in putting the guy where he's going to play and letting him play. So I think I worry that maybe that stunts Tevin's growth by constantly making him learn a new position.
Well, I definitely understand that way of thinking about it. When I heard about it, I kind of was hoping that they would play Nate Davis on the other side because Tevin was just getting his groove on at the right guard spot. And so when they said that they were going to move him, obviously to me, they thought that he could do it. And so before I got upset about it, it was just like, oh, okay, well, let's see what happens in camp. I mean, they reserve every option to switch that back around if it's not going well in camp, you know what I mean? Because I'm sure Nate Davis has got enough experience that he could probably I think they'll be fine there. But that's the part of the offensive line I feel best about is the interior. I think I can't say that I was tied into some of those games that you were talking about when Whitehair was having bad snaps and things like that. I don't remember any of that stuff, but I think he's a much better upgrade than having the guy we had out there before. So I feel good.
Oh, he's better than Mustafa for sure.
Oh yeah.
I still would think Lucas Patrick, like, I don't know why. I mean, I know he was hurt the whole season and he didn't play well at guard when he was in there. But if I were again, this is just me, I'm just a meatball fan, but if it were me, I would tell Cody and Lucas Patrick, hey, bro, it's a jump ball here. Somebody can earn the job. Nobody's number one. You got to fight for it. But it seems like even Lucas Patrick has acquiesced and said, okay, I know I'm here to be the backup, and it's just like, I want him to fight for the job because Cody's been here for like 7-8 years now, and the line has struggled the whole time he's been here, and he's been a big part of that struggle. It's not personal. I just don't believe in Cody Whitehair at this point. I was hoping he was going to get cut in June, honestly.
I believe in what you're saying, Dan. I hear you. And I'm also concerned about that unorthodox snapping motion that Whitehair has that's caused us, some botched snaps in critical moments of the game. I remember them. And I was telling Nomad, and it came at critical moments in the game, get parts of the game where we needed to get a first down on third down. Yep. And it's terrible. It's terrible. And I hear you about, wanting that competition. I think that competition goes without saying. If we start seeing bad snaps from Cody Whitehair, we're going to see a new guy in there. That's one thing we can't afford.
Hey, Sam and Dan, I wondered if any one of you guys saw the Jared Payton interview with Justin's dad on WGN.
I did.
One thing I noticed in that interview, I heard him say that he was talking to his son about, what's been going on. And he said the snaps have been right on the money every time. It's right where I need the ball, need to receive the ball. So I noticed that in that interview. And that told me a lot about, I know they're not in pads, but that tells me a lot about the kind of rhythm and chemistry. And maybe he's worked on some of that stuff that he was having problems with in the past.
Well, Nomad, let me ask you this. Correct me if I'm wrong. Is this not the first time since Cody Whitehair's played center that he started out at this position this early in the offseason?
I believe so.
I believe it is too. So I think it's going to help a lot. I don't think he's been at a mini camp where he was the center before. I think they brought him in later in camp, or maybe even after the start of the season. So I think that kind of alleviates some of the doubts I have, knowing that he's going through the entire offseason as the starting center. He is a veteran. I think his attitude is different before, because before I don't think he really embraced this change as much as he's embraced it now. So I think that's going to add stability. I'm really not as concerned with the line as I am concerned with the defense of the pass rush. That's my concern.
Well, yeah, I'm not concerned. I would say that, of course he's doing well right now. He doesn't have a pass rush in front of him. It's not a critical moment of the game, So until we see him in a live game situation where, he's feeling the pressure coming up the middle, he knows this linebacker is about to blitz and he has to get the snap up quick so that he can anchor and just try to stop this guy from bull rushing him and knocking him over. Until we know that he can get that snap back there good in that situation, then I understand the concern.
Yeah, but the reps, the continued reps are definitely going to help him. Something he hasn't had. The chemistry he's going to build with Justin. I'm pretty comfortable with him. not as a long-term solution. I really hoped they would draft a center to develop behind him, but I'm a little less concerned about center position than I about than the edge rusher. That's where I need to see something. And we're in a season of optimism, like always, and a season of many questions. So some of that's going to play out, but yeah, I need to see sacks.
You know what? Let me just throw 2 cents in here about Lucas Patrick right quick. And he got a pretty bad rep last year, and part of it he deserved, and part of it was on coaching because I believe they had guys playing out of position. I think he had no business being at left guard. I really don't. I don't think he was prepared for playing left guard because when I studied him on tape when we got the guy, I started looking at his tape. Every time I watched the game that he was involved in, he was either the backup center, the starting center, or right guard, or the backup right guard. Never saw him on the left side. And so when he came here, the worst games that he had was anything on the left when he was playing left guard. When he played right guard, he was solid. When he went to the left side, something about the left guard technique threw him off, and people were just blowing right past him. So I think all the bad rap came from him playing on the left side. And again, I'll go back to Poles' statement after the season when he said, they asked him something similar to, what happened with the offensive line. And what the first thing out of his mouth was, we had guys playing out of position. And so that bulb went off in my head about Lucas Patrick and maybe one more person that was out of position. But yeah, I think he's got more to bring to the table than we think. And I think in this camp, I don't think it's a runaway Cody Whitehair job. I think it's going to be a toss-up. To be honest with you, it's going to be probably 50-50. And Cody Whitehair might be just a $10 million salary right there. I mean, if Lucas Patrick can play well at center with the pads on, why would we keep him?
He's got to get the pads on first, though. And that's, like they say, best ability is availability. So until he can stay healthy. And Dan, let me say, you are not a fool. If you are a fool, I am a bigger fool, because there was a time when I put all my trust in Vince Evans and Bob Avellini, and that didn't work out either. So
I even bought a Cordell Stewart jersey in 03 when the Bears signed Cordell.
Oh Lord, yeah,
it was authentic too.
Well, let's get to some start comments before Dan gets out of here. I know his time is precious.
Yes, sir.
A chance to respond to a few star questions. Let me see here. You got that, Mr. Producer?
Sam?
This is from Mark. He says, I'm worried that Nagy ruined Justin Fields.
Ooh. I'll let Dan get a bite of that.
He's only won 5 games as a starter. And I was at the game where he got his first start against Cleveland, and he just got annihilated. It was very similar to Jay against the Giants in 2010.
Monday night, oh God, it ruined his career.
He had like 9 or 10 sacks in one game.
In the first half,
yeah. So,
terrible.
But as bad as Nagy is or was, because I mean, I can't say he's horrible now because he just won the Super Bowl, albeit with Patrick Mahomes in Kansas City. But it's not like he's a failure in terms of his resume at this juncture. But he was awful in Chicago. But I think Justin had so many moments last year, so many highlight moments, that he's sort of shown that, hey, he was able to survive this horrible, unqualified, bald person as the coach. I was about to use an F word. So I think he's shown that he's going to survive Matt Nagy. But now, again, he's got to show that he can make that bubble screen to Darnell Mooney that they run incessantly, the 4-yard pass to Ryan Griffin in the end zone against Washington. He's got to make those easy throws to show people, hey, I am a passer. And because that's the narrative on him right now, is that he's only a running quarterback. I think it's BS, but he's got to prove it.
I'm seeing a lot of really good comments down there. J2K says Fields dusted Nagy off long ago. I believe that 100%. I think he's had a full season to get that out of his system. I was very upset about the Cleveland game. I was very, very upset about that game and how that happened. But I believe Nagy. I'm not going to make excuses for it, but I believe Nagy was in a no-win situation. That we had this new shiny toy that everybody wanted to see, and he kept telling people he's not ready. Andy Dalton is better suited to get us wins, and he was absolutely right. Justin was not ready, but the power of the upper management probably came down on him and was just like, hey man, listen, I know what you feel about him, but we need to see the young man in the game. The fan base won't leave us alone. We need to put him out there. And I think what Nagy did was set him up for failure, just to make him right.
I think, assuming again, I'm not saying your point is off base there, but in my opinion, if they were not going to play Justin in 21, they should have never signed Andy Dalton and just played Nick Foles.
I agree with that.
Because they give him a 1 year, $10 million deal. You could have allocated that money elsewhere. And you remember Foles had the best win of the whole season in his only start out in Seattle in the snow. A big comeback, an incredible pass on fourth down to win the game. I mean, I would have gone with Foles, but I mean, that's feels like 50 years ago now.
Well, Dan,
I just want go
your
ahead,
comment points to what I think was the real problem. I mean, Nagy wasn't a great coach. He was, but Ryan Pace was the problem. Mm-hmm. Ryan Pace was the problem with the last regime. Football is the ultimate team sport, and I don't care who you got taking a snap. If you don't have the right 10 pieces around him, everybody's going to fail. And he never put the quarterback in a position to win. Didn't do it with Cutler. Didn't have it, and neither did Mitch. And they started that way with Justin. I'm glad they're gone. I think now you're going to put some players in position to protect that kid. That kid is strong mentally. He's shown that, and the Cleveland game showed that to me. That he took a butt whooping in that game, and he got back up and he dusted himself off, and that's what gives me so much encouragement about him, is that I think he's tough mentally. He said all the right things, and I think if they can protect that kid, he's going to show everybody that we have the right quarterback to take us to the next level.
Yeah, Chris, I think you make a good point there. What we've built historically around our quarterbacks just hasn't been strong. We, like Dan said before, we've never had a good offensive line.
No,
we haven't had a good offensive line since
Reuben Brown,
the Super Bowl. Yep, since Reuben Brown. Since we traded for Reuben Brown, and who
Andy
was it?
Tate.
John Tate.
John Tate. Yeah,
John Tate, and Garza
exactly.
And Cruz, and I can't remember who was the right tackle right now. But that was the last good offensive line we had, and that was
Fred Miller.
Fred Miller. That was almost 20 years ago. Mm-hmm. It was almost 20 years ago. But I see now that, we're building that offensive line now. We might not have the depth, but I believe in the starters. Center is a small concern of mine. I know that Cody can anchor. I'm only worried about his snaps. I know he can anchor, though.
And reps are going to help that.
And reps going to help that.
Repetition is going to help that. So, I mean, football team building 101 says do it from the inside out. Mm-hmm. I mean, if you got a strong O-line and a strong D-line, it makes everybody else better. That was the problem last year. We were behind because we couldn't stop the run. So we'd get behind. Justin had to throw the ball. He couldn't be protected, so he had to run. So he was endangered. I mean, I don't want to see this kid. I don't want to see him with 800 yards rushing this year. I want to see him with, if he's got to get 500, I'm good with that. But if he can get 500 yards and 3,500 passing, I know 4,000 is the line of demarcation that we've never had, 4,000-yard passer. But if we can get 3,500 from him at least and keep the sacks down, I'm good with that, because I think our run game is going to be strong. But you build a team from the inside out, and we've never done that. Pace was awful at that. And I think Poles knows that, and he's addressed that to some degree.
Okay.
So also about the weapons. One last thing, Nomad, real quick. It's also about the weapons that he has around him too.
Sure.
Because he didn't have anyone to throw the ball to last year. Now we have good tight ends and we have good receivers. So I'm confident because of that.
One thing I would say before you get up the next question, Sam, would be one thing I think we underestimate about Justin is his determination. and his willingness to get better, knowing his weaknesses. He said exactly the right things that he needed to say about what he needed to work on in the off season. And I think based on everything I've heard, I think he did it. And it's never going to be perfect until it's perfect. You don't get to be a 7-year seasoned veteran until you're a 7-year seasoned veteran. It's going to be always getting better, always improving. And one thing I heard him say in his most recent interview was why he needed to work on his footwork, because it all works with the timing passing routes that he has to throw. And when you're in that offense for the first time, and if your feet ain't aligning with the timing of what you need when you need to release the ball, it's all gonna feel off to you.
Hey, Nomad, let me
ahead.
interrupt here. I know Dan's got to go, man. I did want to thank him for coming, man. Please feel free to come back anytime, man. I enjoy you guys on the bar room, and I've enjoyed you tonight, man.
Thank you. Yeah. Invite me back. I'll definitely come back. I'm sorry, I do have to go. It's been my pleasure to be here. Nomad, I'm glad to see you, balling out here on your own with your own podcast. And I appreciate the invite, and I'm not being disingenuous. I'll come back whenever you need me.
Man, it's all teamwork and it's all love. I'll always be part of the bar room in my heart, man. You're always going to be my brother, Dan, and you're always welcome, man.
All right. Go Bears. See you later, gentlemen.
Thanks, Dan.
All right.
Thanks, Dan. Take care.
Yeah, but to that point, I think the biggest thing, the biggest mistake you can make as a fan in evaluating Justin is how big that dude's heart is. That dude, I could see it in his eyes during the game. He's determined. He will put that team on his back in whatever shape or form that has to be, and he will lead these guys to victories in ways that we don't see coming just yet. I'm telling you, it's going to be through the air a lot more than it's going to be on the ground. He's going to get comfortable with the guys that he's working with. He's comfortable in the second year of his offense, and I'm telling you, I think we're going to be real surprised. I'm not saying it's going to come week one. He's got new pieces around him. It might take him a couple of games. I'm not saying they can't win those games, but it might not look as clean and crisp as you might want it to be. But I think the gel will come. If everybody stays healthy, everybody's on the field, the gel will come. And that's the part I think people are underestimating, is the comfortability that you can get by just having the same guys on the field all the time and working through an offense that you kind of, now you know it, and you feeling like guys around you know it, and you're not second guessing everything. So I think that gets underestimated. So watch out for how much better he can look this year.
Hey, wait, man. Trips, you got a word from the spirits?
The power imposed compels you. The power imposed compels you. The power imposed compels you. The power imposed compels you.
All right, that's enough.
All right, let's get the next statement up.
Let's go with this one here. I got J2K. If the future is now, if Justin gets 17-ish games in and we make the playoffs, could we make a run?
I'll let you answer that first.
Yes, if we get 17 games in and we make the playoffs, and the playoffs is anyone's game. We saw that with who was it? The Bengals. They made it to the Super Bowl second year with a second year quarterback. So I definitely can see that happening for us as well. A lot of things, that means if we do get in that position that a lot of things have already gone right, that means the defense is gelled. That means that the offense is clicking. So once we get into that game, into the playoffs, it's anybody's game. Then it's a fight to the end.
I've looked at this in so many different ways. If you saw the thumbnail, you saw Nomad holding a trophy. The point of the show is to believe. Get rid of things that happened in the past. Don't compare now to yesterday. And if you're looking at now and looking at the current roster, and you base that next to what you saw last year on a competitive level, meaning that, even though we lost a bunch of games, how tight they were and how much they competed. Add another layer of talent to that, what you saw last year. And nobody can convince me that these guys can't compete for anything this year. So would it surprise me if they made a deep playoff run? Hell no. Not one bit. I expect them to. things happen during the season. Yes, knock on wood. But the talent level so far, even though the 53 man is not set, I love the level of talent on the roster. Something to be said about the youth on the roster. I mean, a lot of people would say that that's a inhibitor when you're talking about making a playoff run. They're too young. No. I think that juice from the youth is beneficial to your team. You got all these young guys out there that's not all beat up. Man, they're gonna be huge, especially on defense, man. And so when you can stop guys, when you have a front four that can actually penetrate and get to the quarterback and close down, running lanes and back a team up, and you got a thorough linebacker core like we have behind it, and a much improved secondary behind it with a healthy Eddie Jackson, one of the elite safeties in the league. Hell yeah, you can try it until you blue in the face. You won't convince me these guys won't be competitive and they can't make a run. You can't tell me that. So they gotta strap them up. They gotta get the 53 man set. They gotta get through training camp, and we on. And so I just don't see any reason why. I don't see any reason at all to doubt this team.
Keep in mind that what we see in September is not going to be the same team we see in late December. I mean, NFL season is a marathon; it's not a sprint. So, one, we have to survive the war of attrition. It's going to be some injuries. We hope those are light, but that's why development is such an important thing. I mean, we're going to have guys that aren't going to be the same players in week 1 as they are in week 17. So hopefully this is what we have failed to do in the past is, develop players. And I hope with this coaching staff and this administration, we can develop those players. We see those young players you're talking about that we've drafted. We see the talent, but we've got to develop them to become NFL level players. If we can do that, we don't know what can happen during the season. I mean, and there's been plenty of evidence of that in the last few seasons. With Cincinnati is the one that always comes to mind. And I do think Justin is capable of having the impact that Joe, what's his name? Joe Burrow had in Cincinnati. I mean, I think he can have that type of impact. We just have to develop. We have to mesh, and those things can happen. But that's gonna say a lot about what our coaching staff is, and we didn't see that last year. We want to see it this year.
Same thing goes for Philadelphia. No one believed in them last year anyway. As well, no, everyone was doubting Jalen Hurts. He wasn't going to be a good quarterback. All of the same things we're hearing about Justin this year, we heard about Hurts throughout the summer.
No one would have thought that Jalen Hurts would be getting a $200 million plus contract 4 years ago.
No.
When that dude transferred from Alabama, we thought that was the last we were going to see him.
Yep.
And now he's one of the highest paid, if not the highest paid quarterback in the league. So, I mean, it can happen. They developed him. They trusted in him. They put the people around him to help him succeed. They protected him. They set up a game plan that played to his strengths. We need to take some lessons from Philadelphia.
One of these days, we're going to have to download and play some parts of Rod Marinelli's. He was on 670 to score about a month ago or right before the draft or something like that. But they were asking him about 3-tech, but he went into the defensive scheme and how he learned it and, the particulars about that defense. And you listen to him talk. And if you watch that interview like I did and you relate and you just thought back to some of Eberflus's press conferences, and you can tell that he's applying all of that knowledge into these guys, man. And I saw it on the field, man. There's a reason why those guys were – you talking about a C- D level roster last year, and they still were competing with people. He's convinced these guys you do the small things really, really well. You rep them and rep them and rep them and rep them until it becomes second nature. You're going to be in games anyway because you're going to be better at it than everybody else is. And so I think the coaching staff, I think Eberflus, I think is a young, upcoming, probably going to be one of the better coaches in the league. I know people are saying, I don't know, I don't like the idea of Flus being the coach. He's a defensive guy. We need an offensive guy to raise Justin. No, this guy's a leader. This guy's a leader, and that I would agree with that to a certain extent. If it wasn't a guy like Eberflus, I keep telling you guys, this guy's an elite leader, a leader of men. When you can do that, you can end up like a Mike Tomlin. Mike Tomlin's not a offensive. I mean, they had one of the top offenses in the league. Yes, they had Ben Roethlisberger, but he's a defensive-minded coach. Same with John Harbaugh. He's a special teams guy, but he's an elite leader of men. And he can get what he needs out of guys, whether they be on the offensive side of the ball or the defensive side of the ball. So that guy is underrated. And I think as the season goes on and we start seeing success, I think people are gonna appreciate that guy more, and his leadership ability, I think, is budding on elite, man. So just think about that as the season goes on, man. That dude is gonna be a hell of a coach in this city, man. So
Well, even more than Philly, I think Pittsburgh is definitely a team that you should pattern your organization after, because they show the ultimate in patience. I mean, with only 3 head coaches in their entire 50-some-year history, I mean, that's a lost concept in the NFL today. I mean, owners get rid of coaches. If you don't win now, they'll get rid of you. And Pittsburgh has been as successful as anybody, just about. I mean, prior to New England winning all those Super Bowls here in the last 20 years, Pittsburgh was the model franchise. I mean, they know how to be patient. They were patient with Tomlin. They were talking about getting rid of him. Ownership never flinched on Tomlin. We need to get the right guy. Eberflus could be him, and we need to be patient. And I think we have the 2 guys in the front office now that we need to show that patience with. So
as everybody calming down, everybody settle down, man, because I noticed, right before and after the draft, the energy was through the roof. With the fan base was so optimistic. They were so elated, especially after the draft and after free agency, man. They saw all those great pickups we got in free agency, these great draft picks we just got, and everybody was on a high for a few weeks. And all of a sudden, as we start getting into OTAs and things like that, everybody's highs start to come down and everybody start drifting back into the pessimism. And I'm noticing this stuff looking at social media and other chat rooms and being involved with other people's shows. And I thought tonight would be a good night to just bring us all together, man, and get on the string, man. Look, it was a reason why you were elated about the free agency pickups. There's a reason why you were elated about the draft picks. There's a reason why you are elated when you see Justin Fields highlights. You're elated because you know there's something great going on here. That's not gone anywhere. That's just going to get better and better. And so just to get back to the basics, man, listen, as a fan base, man, we have to be more positive, man. We got to uplift each other and stop finding reasons to be pessimistic about everything, man. Believe. I'm telling you, this is a reason to believe, man. The stuff it's all right there for you to see, man. You don't watch as much tape as I do, fine. I'm a tape junkie, but everything I see on tape tells me that we got something cooking here, man, and it's going to look good once they get it all put together.
Well, I think in part we can blame, and you hit on it on Nomad at Night Sunday. I mean, it's the media. I mean, it's a dry time for actual factuals, so they create a narrative. And we've got so much media now. We have so much access to. People see a lot of negativity coming out. Justin threw 3 interceptions at camp today. Certain players aren't there. What's up with that? So they create that narrative of negativity, and that's really all we have to digest this time of the year. So that creates negativity among the fan base. I don't really, man. You know what? I've been a Bears fan since 1969. I was a little boy, and I just don't buy into it anymore. I'm optimistic this time of year just because it's this time of year. I'm hopeful that we'll always be good, and most of the time we haven't been. But I think, the media, so much media, we have so much access to media now. They create those negative narratives, and that's where a lot of it comes from. Because you were right. Coming out of the draft, hey, everybody was on a high. We got to OTAs and minicamp, and then, some of the negative Nancy's hit. And so,
Hey, Chris,
yes, sir.
you know, I'm gonna push the line just a little bit further
Push it.
because I think if the O line can solidify itself and get a gel going on and get a little bit solid amongst each other, and I'm not just talking about the five. I'm talking about the ones who are going to back them up. If they can get solid, qualified guys behind them and be confident in them, I think we can push the line. I think we'll be pushing guys around this year.
I
Based
believe
on
that
what I
too.
saw last year, I think we'll be pushing guys on both sides of the ball.
I don't think people realize how big of an addition Nate Davis is going to be. Okay, we know on the defensive line, the defensive side of the ball, if we can't push the inside of the offensive line, we can't create any disruption. Well, that was the problem we had last year. We didn't have any stability on our interior line. Nate Davis is going to change that. That guy is good, and I think we've done a great job of solidifying the inside of our offensive line. I'm not worried about Braxton. I think Braxton is solid. And that big thing they got on the right side, I think he's going to be special. So I just like the word that you use is key is gel. Are they going to have time to gel? And reps do that, and that's what I'm excited about. Continuity, the continuity. Go ahead, Sam.
No, I'm just gonna say, yeah, I agree that Nate Davis, the addition of Nate Davis and Darnell Wright tells me that we're gonna bully guys this year, man. That's the type of line we're gonna have. We're gonna have guys that are gonna push people around and push people to the ground. We're gonna block to the whistle. We're gonna have a tough group of guys on our offensive line this year. It's not gonna be like the past where we're playing with this finesse and we see guys just getting ran around. No, we're gonna hit people in the mouth this year. And that's what I think the expectation is of this team. Those are the type of guys they're bringing in, and that's going to set the tone for the entire offense, for the entire team. The offensive line sets the tone for the team, and those are my expectations of, what the offensive line is going to be this year.
Got to stay healthy though. I mean, the depth is what worries me on the O line. Starting five we have right now, I'm pretty good with, but swing tackle. I mean, who's going to be our swing tackle? We have a lot of questions as far as if an injury hits, and it's football, so an injury could hit. How many times does all five starters play every snap during a year? Never. So that's the thing I'm a little bit more worried about, because depth is what wins championships.
And everybody needs to start having faith. You know why, Trip? Tell them why.
The power of polls compels you. The power of polls compels you. The power of polls compels you.
All right, that's enough.
No team knows what they have, though, guys. Let's be honest. No team knows what they have in the backup until that backup has to play. So I'm going to believe in the power of polls, and that he's going to select the right guys to be that swing tackle, to be that swing guard, that swing that guy to back up the middle of the line at center. So in case we need a guy for a few games, I think we'll be good.
Let me address something. J2K, man, you and I done come a long way, man, and we kind of bros now, man. I think we understand each other a whole lot better. But I got to get after you about Velus now. Velus is I would not call him a bust. I call him a guy that's there's a thing, just knowing guys that played in the league. There's a thing called the rookie bug, they call it. Rookies go through a whole hell of a lot, like right before they're drafted, all the stuff you got to do. You got to get an agent, you got to get ready for combines and pro days and all this kind of stuff. Then the draft comes, then a week later you're in a camp and you don't really have time to really adjust. And from the people I talk to, he's like, man, everybody don't take to it well, because there's a lot of information coming at them, and they come into a situation where you're in a West Coast offense. Yeah, I'm gonna defend Velus because I can sense a little nervousness out there when he was on the field, man, especially when he started having the drops. And it sounded like to me when they were talking about Velus in press conferences, talking about Flus and Getsy, it sounded like he didn't really get the playbook all the way down, and that was
Nomad.
Yes.
Breaking news.
Don, bro, you got Don Bird 2.0 up in here. Hey, y'all gonna take some lumps this year. I'm just gonna tell you right now off the bat. I know y'all had a
I know one thing. They got an ugly helmet. Woo, that helmet is ugly.
That is hideous, man. The lion looks hungry and everything on it.
Starving. Like he's starving. That don't look like a lion. It's an alley cat.
Yeah,
that's an alley cat. I know alley cat when I see one.
No, but J2K, it's all love, man. But I think you gotta lighten up on Valus just a little bit. Give him a chance, man.
I think Valus is gonna take his this year.
Mm-hmm.
Valus, what we saw at the beginning, and that's exactly what I said. The Valus we saw in September was a lot different than the Valus we saw in December, and I think it's going to be even more different this September because that rookie bug, it definitely bit him, and that kid's got a lot of talent. He's just about special. He's just about Cordarrelle Patterson special with the ball in his hand. So not quite as big, but I think he's going to do some good things this year. I'm not worried about Valus. Valus is going to make the team.
I don't know, AC Adam. I don't know about that, man. I wasn't expecting to hear this. I can't believe. I can't remember whether it was Adam Hogue or Moriano. One of those two spoke highly of Ebner and OTAs. Like he was out there and he's catching a lot of balls from Justin, man. And he was out there quite often and was looking really good. So don't forget the guy is also he was also a rookie last year, and there's some certain things that come with that. So I mean it's like, to me, you ought to grade a rookie on a curve, kind of. You know what I mean? It's kind of when you're a rookie, it's like a freshman in college. You get there, everything's all new, and just all this responsibility, man. A lot comes at you really fast. And I was a really good athlete going into my freshman year, but I came into a new system. The same system, but run differently. Bunch of upperclassmen above me, and I was cocky. You know what I mean? But then you start playing, and now you're playing with a bunch of guys that are bigger than you, and all this kind of stuff. It's just certain things that come with new people and new systems, and doing it all for the first time. That I wouldn't write Ebner off, but I think he's got an uphill battle. I don't think it's a battle that he can't overcome. Like, it wouldn't surprise me that if we didn't keep Homer, because Ebner was able to shine some kind of way. And if he shines and he can pick up in protection and run the routes and do all of that stuff, Homer's not going to be on the team. I would say the same thing for Valus Jones. I mean, not Valus Jones, but EQ St. Brown. He could be the odd man out this year. He served a great purpose for continuity of the offense that Getsy was trying to put in, right? Now we have a year into the offense. Most of the pieces came back. Now we have Tanyan that can do also the same kinds of things, and everybody knows the offense now. And so EQ could be on the wrong side of the cut margin this year. So, I mean, I wouldn't write Ebner off so fast.
No, the way you judge a rookie is rookies are going to take their lumps in the middle of the season. They may start off hot in the beginning of the season. They're going to take their lumps towards the middle of the season once teams, put a little bit more focus on them if they're having some success. But towards the end of the year is when if they're having success towards the end of the year, which we saw in most of our rookies last year. Valus picked it up towards the end of the season. We saw Gordon pick it up towards the end of the season. We saw Briscoe pick it up towards the end of the season. That's what you judge them on. How they finished, not how they started, or not how it went, how they finished, because that means they picked it up. They got it. It came late. It takes time to learn the game in the NFL. And just think about it. These guys just trained for the combine, did all this different training. They went through training camp. Them legs get tired towards the middle of the season. They got to kind of, get the bearings under them again, and then and it's a long NFL season too.
It's longer than that college season.
Much longer. You got an extra 7-8 games coming your way. So, that's what you look at. That's what you look for, though, how they finish the season, and how if they're getting better, then that's the encouragement. That's all the encouragement you need to know that, the next year they're going to come back and they're going to be thumping.
Mm-hmm. I gotta say something. My man Cornelius Squalls at The speed the Bears can put on the field at the receiver position is scary, and defense will have to watch Justin. Man, it's Cornelius, you cannot overstate that. That speed that we're gonna put on the field. Like I start thinking about it real hard, man, and start comparing it to other teams in the league. I don't think there's a team out there quite as fast as this one. I might be wrong, but not at the. I mean, overall, you talking about between Justin, the backs, and Tanyan is a fast freaking tight end, and those receivers we got. I don't know if there's a faster offense out there.
There isn't.
I don't
There
think
isn't
there's
a
a
faster
faster offense out there, man. And what that speed can do out there on the boundaries and running post and running the secondary away from what you're trying to establish underneath that, man, it's gonna be so. Luke Getsy has to be having, man, he's probably in the I ain't gonna say this is Nomad Live, I gotta remember that, but he's probably having a good time designing him and those coaches designing plays because he's got a lot to work with, man. And it's freaking great. I don't know if you've ever seen anything like this in Chicago.
Look at that last comment, man. What does that say?
This is talking about Don.
Yeah. He said this is hilarious. It really is. That's hilarious.
It is. That's what is this?
What is that?
He got a damn Ford Mustang helmet.
He needs to eat, man. Feed that lion, man. Feed that alley cat.
Drive, man. Who like somebody look fourth grade kid could have did this, man. What is this, man?
Somebody's fourth grade kid did do that.
Dang shame, and he ain't here talking about it's hilarious. What's it been all those years that the Lions were bad? You got one decent year.
Going Detroit
the playoffs. Yeah, still didn't make the playoffs. You had a decent year. Still didn't make the playoffs, and you in here talking about excuses and talking about this is hilarious. Don, stop it. Okay. Detroit will Detroit. You guys aren't going to win a division this year. You guys aren't going to see the playoffs this year. You're going to be trash just like you always been. Remember that.
When we get our hands on you, I'm gonna clown you, Don. I'm gonna clown you till you come on the show. And you done ran circles around these other cats. I ain't gonna beg you, but hey, I'll tell you what, we can make a bet. If we don't kick y'all butt at least once this year, I'll come from behind the camera. If we kick y'all butt twice, you come through the show.
We will. They're going down both times. Probably not going to even have half the team is going to be suspended for gambling by the end. That's a whole nother subject, though.
All right, let's get another comment up there so we can.
He said bet. He said bet.
King Book of World. He says, what's bothering me is how people act like players can't improve from last year. I think we just covered that.
Development.
We just kind of covered that when we were talking about the rookies. And, I don't know if you want to go any further into that Nomad or Chris.
I will because I've seen King Book of World make that point multiple times trying to get, and what he's doing is he's trying to do yeoman's work like I am. Like, God, why do we constantly keep bashing these young players like because they had a bad year? Like players can't improve. The fact of it is, you see somebody like a Treston Ebner. Treston Ebner didn't show much of anything last year. It's hard to defend Treston Ebner, but can you understand the context of why a person might have had a bad year? He didn't look anything like he did on tape in college, and there's a reason for it. For whatever reason it was, can he correct it? Is what King Booker is saying. Can he correct it? Can Velus Jones correct how bad he looked last year? The answer is HDE double hockey sticks, yeah. And it's no reason to keep going down the line of, hey, he was a bust or he probably might get cut. Get out of here, man. Velus Jones ain't going nowhere. Ebner has a bigger uphill to climb than Velus does, but that's speed you can't buy at Walmart, man. That guy is way too explosive, and he's gonna fix his flaws.
Mm-hmm. I agree. He's going to fix his flaws.
I hear from the spirits. All right, that's enough.
All right. If his eyes start lighting up back there, I'm about to run the hell up out of here, man. He's scaring me. All right, you got another one?
We got another one here. He says, all that starts with the talk shows around here, all the negative, and I love it.
He says it's all negative and he love it. I don't know if he's being sarcastic there. And,
Yeah, I think it's a little sarcasm, and we know
he's being accurate.
Yeah, he's accurate. You know, everyone's getting the Wiederhogitis. See what I did there? The Wiederhogitis is what everyone's catching right now. You know, and when you catch that, you need to come on over here to Nomad Live. That's the antidote for you, okay? Because those guys are gonna have you jumping off a bridge thinking that, oh, the sky is falling. You know, Justin Fields is a complete bust. You know, the offensive line is, we don't know what they are. We know what our offensive line is. We know what last year was. We see the improvement. We know what players we got. We know what we're doing. We know the way that things are going. Those guys just want to write stories to say, you know, we're writing stuff to clickbait, to get this little quick clickbait. You know, we're going to write the opposite of what everyone else is writing so that you all can run to those stories and think that, you know, the sky is falling. And then, you know, they get their likes and whatever. They get to talk about it for the next week or so afterwards.
Well, and you can't blame them. I mean, that's their job, is to create content, to create, get clicks. And so I don't hold that against them. I'm just smart enough to know I can read and I can look in and find the news myself. And I mean, it doesn't affect me. Like I said, I've been dealing with it for years now, so I never let it affect me.
I can't let that slide.
I know you're not.
I'm gonna say this, and I'm not gonna disparage nobody, but before and our job is to create content and generate some momentum. And so, guys, do us a favor. If you like this content, please like, subscribe, turn on your notifications, and share, because it will help us later on. If you haven't done it, it definitely helps. But before I go further, I'm not going to disparage anybody, but before we had Nomad Live, I had to go through the ringer of doing other podcasts and, you know, building a name for myself. And before we started doing this, I promised myself that we weren't going to ever do anything for clicks, just for clickbait, and we're going to base it on study, base it on facts, base it on actual homework, and not be like, I used to watch podcasts and be part of chats. And you know how fast I'll turn the damn podcast off as soon as I realize this dude don't know what he's talking about, because he really probably never played football and doesn't know what he's talking about. There's a lot of known podcasters out there ain't never played football, but you would tend to believe that they know what they're talking about, ain't never played a down of football, and don't really know in context what they're looking at. And so guys like that, I tend to turn off those podcasts. And I'm not putting nobody down in particular. I will not say no names, but eventually people will understand who the real guys are that really know how to talk about this stuff, and they ain't gonna just be generating content for clicks. We're not ever gonna do that at the Nomad Network. We're gonna make videos, we're gonna do shows, we're gonna do a variety of different stuff, but we're not gonna do it for clicks. We're gonna make quality content and know what the hell we're talking about when we say it. And so that's what's gonna make us different. We're gonna put in the work. And so you guys can keep on watching whoever you want to watch, but don't let that kind of stuff get to you and you turn into one of those negative Nancy's because you're watching too much of that content.
Well, and I don't think, everybody has to have been a former football player to know about football. I mean, you have to study, and I know both of you guys have played, college football. I retired after the 8th grade, so my extensive playing is not as vast as yours. But I mean, I have been watching football, studying football for 50 years. And so, I mean, I don't consider myself an X's and O's expert, but I can evaluate talent because, I mean, I've done it before. And so, but you can tell, like Nomad said, you can tell the difference between a guy that's just writing or saying something just for the content to be get clicks, or he's trying to generate something other than just trying to be accurate. And so, yeah, I totally agree with you, bro.
Never gonna happen at the Nomad Network. You can guarantee we ain't gonna be doing no clickbait. But on to the next statement.
Let's go on to the next one real quick. Let's see. This guy had one already. We go here.
Where's the pass rush gonna come from? Mark Kazak. Hopefully I said that right. I think it's gonna be a collective. I think it's gonna be a collective. And I think quite honest with you, it's going to be a toss-up who's actually going to be the starting defensive ends. I think it's a toss-up. I think the only person I would say is guaranteed to be here when training camp is over is probably, it's two people, DeMarcus Walker and Dominique Robinson. I think anything can happen with the rest of those guys, but I expect it's a possibility if they make a move, it could be a trade, and Travis Gibson is part of the trade bait, and he's not going to be here. And we might get an upgrade. We might get a Daniil Hunter or somebody like that, or Montez Sweat. Like Samo really wants that dude, but there's going to be a collective. And like I said before, I do think Terrell Lewis, given a new role outside of he was playing 3-4 linebacker, and a 3-4 linebacker is playing a lot in coverage, and he's playing on two instead of down in the 3-point stands with his hands in the dirt. And so he's getting accustomed to doing that. So when you look at Terrell Lewis on tape, you can't really base it on what he's going to do here on anything you've seen on tape because he's not done that before. So we might have a diamond in the rough, and I think we do.
Outside of the defensive ends, guys, we can't just keep thinking about the pass rush and thinking about defensive ends. We have interior defensive linemen. There's called the rush from the interior. We're going to crash that pocket, guys. We have big guys, 6'4" or taller with 34-inch plus arms. We're going to push that pocket, dent it in, allow those defensive ends to come out, sweep that quarterback outside of the pocket. He's going to have to pick to go to his left or to his right, and he's going to run into one of those defensive ends coming around the edge. That's the type of pressure. That's where the pass rush is going to come from. The interior guys. That's why the focus was on the interior guys. I think pressure from the middle is much better than pressure from the outside. We saw what it did to Justin Fields last year. Quarterback can't step up. You can't continue to keep your eyes focused down the field if you have a guy barreling down on you, 300-pound, 6'6" guy barreling down on you. You have to drop your eyes and take your eyes off the field to try to figure out where you can escape. And once you do that, then the play is pretty much over because now we're going to be we're all over you. Now you're trying to escape and we're all over you. Took your eyes down, or you're going to throw the ball too soon, throw it early, which is going to give our DBs an opportunity to get a pick. That's where I'm expecting the pass rush to come from, the interior.
Hey, Sam, I got to say this because J2K has said it. I've said this on a couple podcasts, so I got to say it one more time. It was a time when I was studying all the players in the draft, especially 3-Tech, and I was studying someone else, and then J2K came into a chat and asked me had I studied Zach Pickens, and I was just like, yeah, he's next up on the radar. And so I started studying that dude. Man, let me tell you something about that guy. There's a couple things to pay attention to with him. How explosive he is off the ball. That's number one. You guys already know how I feel about Javon Dexter. It's going to be proven out once he gets on the grass. But Zach Pickens, man, let me point out something in particular about him. A couple of things. Look closely and look at how big his hands are. He's got some big, strong. He was in one of those minivans, I think, with Spice Adams when he first got here. If you want to look back at that video, he was kind of getting the intro to the city and all that. Look at how big his hands are. And that's evident on tape. Like that guy shares blocks really well, man. He gets off blocks really well. He's got some strong hands and some nice long arms, man. And I think that can't be understated when you're playing on the inside with that kind of explosion and burst. To have strong hands and long arms is going to go a long way with that young man. And so I've said this before, and I will say it again. It's quite possible that Jervon Dexter and Zach Pickens could have a better upside than Jalen Carter in the long run. And I believe that. By stuff I've seen on tape, I think Jalen Carter he's got a real fat boy gene in him. You see the back of that dude's head, and he's got probably about 100 pounds that he hasn't put on yet. It's like he's gonna have problems with his weight his whole life, man. And that's not funny. But and his work ethic versus what I've heard about Dexter and Pickens, man, I'm telling you, we got some stud interior guys. These guys know how to pick them, man. So I just remember J2K mentioning him to me, and about a week later, I finally get around to his tape and just loved everything I saw about him.
Well, and that's another thing, man, you mentioned earlier, Nomad, was how with Eberflus being as innovative as he is on defense, some of the hybrid packages, I really look at Noah Sewell, man. I think he's going to have an impact on the pass rush, too.
Oh, yeah.
I think there's going to be packages where Sanborn is going to come in, and Sewell will be on the edge. Because that dude, 2021, 22, rather. That year, he was just a beast off the line. So I think he's going to have a major impact on the pass rush. I look for him to maybe get close to double-digit sacks.
Well, I don't know about that. I don't think it's beyond the pale. If he does, it'd be great. But I don't think he's gonna get used in a way that we can foresee coming. I think the addition of him, that guy they got, the rookie they got from Houston, the UDFA, and there's one more person I can't think of right off the top of my head. Makes me think they're gonna experiment with some odd fronts just to give offenses a little bit of a, like what are they gonna do next? Guys like that, you get these I don't know, these tweener kind of guys. You can do a bunch of different things with those kind of guys. I think it was predetermined before the draft that they were going to give a few different kinds of guys with different body types.
Those hybrid look, yeah. I really believe that, especially with their inactivity in trying to find another defensive pass rusher during this, post-draft. They still might add somebody, but Ngakwe's still out there. He didn't get signed, did he? I don't think Ngakwe's been signed. I know you hoping that Neil Hunter gets in there, but that has yet to be determined. But I think their plan, absent any of that activity, is to really work in some of the hybrid stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can go on all night about that, man, because just the Flus. The one thing about Flus is, if you look at his history, he has coached 3-4 too.
Yeah,
he's coached more 4-3 than he has 3-4, but it's in his background, so he would know what he was doing. So,
absolutely,
the power of polls compels you. The power of polls compels you. The power of polls compels you.
All right, that's enough.
All right, let's get another one up, man. We're gonna get a couple more before we get up out of here.
All right, we got our boy J2K again. He says, has Poles overpaid to fix the wide receiver group when he could have drafted Pickens 2 firsts, a 3rd, a 7th at wide receiver, possibly just DJ in 2025 if Claypool and Valus are gone?
No, J2K, that was just your man crush from a year ago, man. Just
Pickens.
Yeah, just let it go.
Yeah. Hey, did you hear what Greg said about him last night?
Gabriel,
yeah, he kind of bashed him. I'm not saying he, all the wide receivers got a prima donna gene, but I don't know. I that bothers me sometimes when I hear guys say, well, I heard from certain sources that this guy is a cancer in the locker room, or he's got this type personality, and I think he said two front office people said they wouldn't have him in their locker room, and I mean, he's a kid coming out of college. You probably could say that, as far as attitude about half the guys coming out.
Hey, what's Chris? You know what's funny? My guy is he almost played in the league, but he just some stuff happened with him personally. But he's a Pittsburgh fan, man, and he always calling me about something with the Steelers, man. And we was talking about that, man. And I was just like, how's he been on the sideline? He's, I'm here. He get a little feisty over there. I'm like, man, it's gonna be if he continue. He's doing that as a rookie. If he's doing that and getting away with it as a rookie, well, you know what's gonna happen his second year when he's not carrying bags and running to get coffee and stuff. If they have more talent now on the offensive side and at receiver. If he's not getting that ball 15 times, he's gonna be over there crying and he's gonna make a stink. I said, man, y'all always find a way to get a receiver or two that has a problem in that way. And I get it. Mike Tomlin is a player's kind of coach. He could. I'm glad he went to Pittsburgh. Actually, that was probably the best place for him because I think Tomlin can get something out of him. But how long can he contain that? That dude he's got an attitude problem, and it's evident. And so, I mean, be honest with you, I can see why the Bears decided, that's not the kind of dude you want when you're trying to really build a culture. You don't want guys like that in your locker room when you're trying to restart everything and start from the ground up. You don't want guys that can really rattle the cage too much. You need guys that can go along with it and get, do what they need to do, despite if you're getting the ball or not 40 times in a game. We don't need you over here crying. We need you to keep going. And so I'm glad I was pleased at how they rallied around Chase Claypool after that little incident on the sidelines. And Justin was the first guy to go say something to him, and they got him together. And that's what you need to have. And you can best believe, Chase Claypool they will understand each other better. So the chance of that being a blow up on the sidelines is a whole lot less because the players went and quashed it. You know what I mean? Right now, Tomlin and the coaching staff are having to quash that thing with Pickens right now. I've seen it up close and personal. It's the coaches because the players can't tell him nothing. It's the players. And the players can't tell him anything. It's the coaches that are having to quash it. So that's the difference between what we got and what they have.
We also got to trust what we don't know that Poles does know. They are privy to a lot more information than we are. They do all their studying of these players. They go to these schools. They talk to teammates. They talk to coaches. Hell, they talk to your high school coach. And they get a good idea of the type of person you are. Not just the football player, but the person. And they obviously saw something they didn't like in Pickens. And I'm going to trust that. Why, Trip?
The power of polls compels you. The power of polls compels you. The power of polls compels you.
All right, that's enough.
Power of polls compels you.
But yeah, so we have to trust in polls, man, and trust that they did their due diligence, man. And
J2K won't let it go, though, man. He said,
at what point do you gauge attitude versus ability? I mean, at what point do you say, hey, we're going to have to deal with a latitude because the guy's got so much ability?
There is a point, but I don't think that the Bears feel like this is the team. They're still building the foundation right now. Okay. They're building the culture. And to thrust in someone who's going to have all this negativity, what they say, one bad apple can spoil a bunch. I think that's what they believe. I think that's why we didn't see Carter drafted here this year. The guy has all the talent in the world. Work ethic is terrible. Attitude, questionable. So, we just don't feel like we have the locker room that we have a young locker room. We don't have the veterans in our locker room. We still have a locker room that's growing, that can sustain, who are still impressionable. Exactly. And that's a chance that you take. That's a risk. So I like that we're being risk averse right now.
I can tell you this. I listened to Jalen Carter, and I listened to, I don't know in what sequence, I listened to Ian Cunningham when he came to the podium and spoke on, him visiting the facility and all that kind of stuff. And one thing that came out that stuck out to me was he said that character is important to us. And so I love to hear that, because you can have a diamond in the rough, or you can have a turd with some frosting on it. You know what I mean? You just don't know. And you have to give faith to the people that have done the evaluation and really feel like they've got enough skin in the game and they kind of know how to do this. J2K asks how if Pittsburgh and Philly can do it, how come we can't? Well, Pittsburgh ain't been that successful at. They lost every one of those guys we were talking about. Antonio Brown, Montavious Bryant. All those guys were great talents, and they ended up losing them in the end. But Philly, one thing about Philly is I heard Jalen Carter say, well, it was his teammates. And when I heard Jalen Carter say he would want to go to Philly because his guys are there. And one thing I heard about from Jalen Carter's teammates was, he's a different player than he was last year, because last year when Jordan was here, referring to Jordan Davis, he wasn't doing all that crap. Running up to the Mississippi State guys, walking up into their workouts and stuff and trying to start fights. He wouldn't do that when Jordan Davis was there. And so they said that when Jordan left, he became a different guy, getting into more trouble and all that kind of crap. And you heard him say, if you were paying attention, you heard him say that I'd rather go to Philly where my guys are at. Why? Because he knows Jordan can check him. We didn't have a guy in the locker room, I don't think, that could have really checked him. And that's probably why the Bears decided we need to move on. We don't have the right guy in the locker room. Had they went and got Calais Campbell or somebody like that in free agency and said, all right, let's get him, Calais will check him and keep him where he needs to be, then I'd have felt differently about it. But I agree. I don't think they had the locker room to facilitate a guy like him.
Well, I know we didn't have the veteran leadership. It was too big of a risk to bring him in. Now, they made the right choice, and I was glad when they said the tackle out of Tennessee is coming this way, and I didn't care. I didn't care where Carter went, as long as he wasn't here.
All right, man.
Is that too harsh?
No, it's not harsh, man. With all that said, Jalen Carter's a young man. He's really young, probably mentally.
Yeah.
But he's gonna need some time to grow.
Yeah.
I hope he grows out of that. You know what I mean? But I thought, after all of that I heard and then seen, I'm like, I don't know if you want to bring that into this locker room. Had they got him, I'd have been like, okay, hopefully they bring in the right veteran to help bring him along. But I thought it was a risk, and I thought the management thought it was a risk, so they decided it was not a good idea.
Yeah, why waste that? I mean, you have to bring in a veteran to school him and mentor him. Why waste that cap money on that? Bring a babysitter? I mean,
yep.
I mean, he's that talented, though.
Yeah.
He is that talented. I mean,
there's a lot of talent sitting at home.
If it's just about talent, then you bring him. It's about
hard
talent.
work. Hard work is going to be talent when talent doesn't work hard, and we know that he's not a hard worker. So I can't say that he's going to be a great player until I see him put in that work on the field and off the field, more so than on the field. So I just can't trust him. I wouldn't trust him either.
I remember being a freshman, coming in cocky. You know what I mean? I was the talk of the city, man. But I got checked by upperclassmen and coaches. Like, man, look, they'll send you right back to Chicago, man. You better get your act together and stop doing some of the stuff. It wasn't nothing more than just hanging out too much, and beer is free everywhere you go. You know what I mean? When you're a person like that, everywhere you go, everything is free, and so you taking advantage of it. Some of the other stuff that went down, I don't even got to speak to that, but it started getting around that, I was having my fill of all that, and they let me know, man, you need to change that. And it came down to, and thank God my kind of my mentor on the team, he was like, we just call him DG. He told me, he's like, man, you got to get your football character where it needs to be. You got all the talent in the world, but your football character sucks. You ain't putting in the work. He said, you keep it up, man. The talent gonna surpass you, man, because you ain't putting in the work. Everybody else working, you BSing around. And so to what Samo was saying, you know, you got to put in, like, that guy has bad work ethic, man. And that's evident from everything I've heard about the guy. You can't, pretty soon the talent will surpass you.
Well, I like what Kenny said
some things, he's gonna look like a bus in a couple of years.
I like what Kenny said in the chat.
I will
They
say
took
that.
him off the board when he didn't.
But,
And
all right, let's do
pro
one
day.
more, man, so we can get up out of here, man.
Yeah, one more. All right,
Is this
let's pick a good one here. Nah, let's pick a good one here.
You gotta, take yourself on mute.
How I get on mute? Can you hear me?
He's not on mute. He can't
Yeah,
hear
can't
us.
hear
He
you.
did something. Can
you
you
hear
hear
me?
us?
Probably might want to pop out and pop back in.
Nope, it's you.
I'll read this question. They
Can you
took,
hear me?
Hear us.
took
He
Carter off
can't
the
hear
board
us.
when he didn't or couldn't finish his pro day or failed interview. I don't know if
I didn't get that. Could you try again?
I'm sorry.
You can't hear us, can you?
No, I don't know.
Can you hear me, Chris?
I can hear it. Everybody else is in the world. He's in outer space.
Who is that? Nomad?
Nomad's in outer space. Oh wait,
All
pray
right, I
for
thought
him,
it was me.
Trip.
The power of pose compels you. The power of pose compels you. Power of pose compels you. Power of pose compels you. Power.
All right, doesn't it? You back, Nomad? He's gone. We got to carry the show.
We'll carry
right.
We'll carry on. Let's pick one more here.
It's Sam and C Dubs from now
on. Let's go with this one here, man. Would you consider Chase Claypool not practicing in OTAs? I don't have a contract. I'll see you when I get in training camp. I'm guessing what he's asking is, are we this is from Donnie Sparks here. What are you saying, Donnie? Is that what we're thinking that Claypool is doing? That's his play? He's sitting out until he gets a contract?
never going to happen.
Yeah.
And I don't think
that's
no, I don't either, Sam. I don't think that's what he's considering. Claypool realizes that he has to do something this season in order to get extended and get a new contract. They're not going to hand him anything before the season. That's not going to happen. His whole future, his whole free agent future is riding on his production this season. He didn't know the offense. They didn't expect him to learn the offense. They didn't expect any production from him after the trade last season. Everything was with an eye toward 2023 with Chase Claypool. So everybody that's disappointed in what he gave us last year, get over it. They didn't expect him to give us anything. The offense is too complex to learn during the season. So their eyes were toward 2023. They'll reward him if he gives them what he thinks they can. So, but right at the moment, not gonna happen.
Yeah, I agree. The only way you get a contract is if you show up and you show that you earned a contract. You're not just gonna get a contract by sitting out faking an injury. I don't think that that's what he's doing at all. I think he's bought into the system. I believe that, soft tissue stuff happens. I think it's the Bears who wanted to sit him down for a little while just to see to it that he's healthy come training camp.
Yeah.
And which is the right thing to do. There's a lot of expectations on him this year because we have to decide whether or not we're going to pay him and extend him in a new contract coming forward next year. So you sit that guy down, you let him get healthy. So when training camp and the season rolls around, he's good to go.
That's right. The negative narrative that's been around Claypool since he's got here has been unfair. I think when you hear Fields vouch for him the way he did, just be glad we got a guy with that type of talent. They're going to get him ready for the season, and I think he's going to show up and show out. Sam, look like we got a special guest. Nomad, so glad you could join us.
Welcome.
Hey man, I'm sorry, man. I just had a little power outage in the house, man. It just went black. Everything just went black in here.
Mm.
But yeah, man. Let's get up out of here. Let's wrap this thing up. I'm gonna ask you guys in the chat. Should we do a part 2 of this show and just finish this up on another day? Did we get out everything we need to get out? Did we speak our minds the way we need to speak our minds? Did we come on the other side of this feeling a whole lot better about our team than we did before this show? Because that's the purpose of it. Make everybody feel better about where we're going and where we're headed. I hope we did a job to help you in that way. And hopefully let us know in the chat. Should we do this show again with this theme? I mean, I'll be glad to reapproach this show. It might be on Nomad at night, but either way, we can reapproach it. And so let's get up out of here. You guys got any final words before we close this out?
Yeah, man, I want to thank Dan Aguirre for coming, man. He took his time out to come and join us, made some good points. Hope Dan comes back. We love the bar room. And I think it was great he took his time out to come and sit down with us for a few minutes.
Yeah, Dan's solid, man. I appreciate him for that.
Samo?
Yeah, thanks, Dan. Yeah, I also want to second that. Thanks, Dan, for coming out. He had a lot of good things to say, brought up a lot of good points. I'm looking forward to him coming back onto the show. And I want to thank everyone in the chat today. You guys stay active. Hopefully, Nomad Live was the antidote and everyone's feeling a lot better, heading into the summer. And look forward to next week's show, which is going to be a special one. I don't know. Should we say anything, guys? Or should we hold off on saying who our special guest is for next week?
Yeah, let's hold off. Let me make
All
sure.
right.
Let's get it in concrete.
Be sure to tune in, guys, to next week's show, Nomad Live. It's going to be a good one.
Triple R, you got any more?
The power of polls compels you.
That was brilliant.
Chris?
Ready?
No. Let me say one more thing, man. Hey, thank you guys for being participants in the show. Thank you for doing this with us live, and everybody that's going to watch this later on demand. I say this one more time. If you guys like this content, if you appreciate what we do and you want to see Nomad Live and the Nomad Network keep going and flowing and keep bringing good content to you guys, please take the time, like and share and subscribe, man. If you haven't done it, please do it. If you want to see us keep going, you want to see the Nomad Network keep going, hey, there's no guarantee we're going to always be here, but if you keep supporting, we damn sure will. And I love doing it for you guys. They all love doing it for you guys. And so it's all happy and we all love doing it. So show your appreciation and give us the love, man. We love you guys, and we'll see you Sunday on Nomad at Night.
Take us home, Trips. Take us home, Trips.
The power of polls compels you. The power of polls compels you. The power of polls compels you.